Hello there. So I wanted to give just a quick few examples of learning your muscles for anatomy and physiology, as well as the muscles' origins, insertions, and actions, because you usually have to memorize those along with the muscles. I had a student say that she was having a hard time with the tibia, so I was going to do the tibia and just the lower leg. There's just some of the main muscles in the lower leg that you need to know. So first let me show you a picture of the muscles. And when I get into the bone room, I will be making a video of this using the actual live models, the 3D models, so you can actually see it better and you'll be able to recognize it in lab. But right now we'll just use some pictures until Thursday, until I can get in. Here is the posterior lower leg. This is the back of the leg. And you notice up here you have your calf muscle, and it turns into your like Achilles heel back here, and then your foot bone down here, your not your ankle bone, but your heel bone. So as a review for the bones, your heel bone is called your calcaneus, right? And then when you're inside your lower leg, your main bone is your tibia that goes straight down to the top of your foot. And on the lateral side of your leg, so on the outside of your leg, you also have the bone, the fibula, and that runs right alongside your tibia, just like your radius and ulna do in your lower arm. Your lower leg is not that different. So this calf muscle up here is going to be your gastrocnemius. And what I've heard students do is they say gastrocnemius. And because that's not how you actually pronounce it, but they do it like that. They do it like that so they can remember there's a C in gastrocnemius and not call it gastrocnemius on accident. So they say gastrocnemius just in order to remember how to spell it. So here's your calf muscle back here, your gastrocnemius or gastrocnemius, and that's the whole like ball underneath your knee. Let's see. Here's your knee right here. There we go. Here's your knee right here. And so right beneath your knee on the back of your leg is this big, your hunk of your leg, your calf muscle. That's the gastrocnemius. Now, deep to the gastrocnemius, in front of the gastrocnemius, but this is all going to be behind the bone, the tibia in the leg. There's this bone that is kind of flat, and it sticks out on either side of the gastrocnemius when it starts to get narrower down here on the narrower part of the foot towards the ankle. So this part sticking out, this little muscle sticking out behind this white tendon here, this part of the muscle sticking out is called the soleus. And I should say the white part down here that comes down and gets really narrow, that's part of the gastrocnemius. It's the tendon to the gastrocnemius, which a tendon is just the ends of the muscle. So the tendon is actually what's going to connect to a bone, not the muscle itself. The tendon kind of grows out of the muscle, and that tendon is what connects the muscle to the bone. So this white, let's get this down. So this white part down here, this is the calcaneal tendon, because this bone right here, your heel bone, is called the calcaneus, remember? So this white tendon that attaches to the calcaneus is called the calcaneal tendon or the calcaneal tendon, whichever pronounce it, however it's going to help you remember how to spell it. And that's actually part of the gastrocnemius or gastrocnemius up here. So behind this white tendon here are these flat part of this muscle that sticks out on either side, and that's the soleus. Now, let's go back to the gastrocnemius, and let's look at this for a second. The gastrocnemius has two parts to it. Do you see these two heads? It's like divided in half. This is all one muscle. These two halves, it looks like, on the back of your leg. This is all one muscle, but it splits off into two sections. So it has two heads to it. Two heads to the muscle, because the heads split off and they attach in two different places up here. And that would be the origin point where they attach. Now, where do they attach? The gastrocnemius attaches at on the condyles of the femur. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. So they pretty much attach to the bottom of the femur on the medial and lateral side of the femur. And then it goes all the way down, all the way down. That was their origin point. They originated at the bottom condyles of the femur, and they go all the way down, and they turn into this calcaneal tendon. And the calcaneal tendon goes down and attaches itself to the calcaneus. That's why it's called the calcaneal tendon. And so that entire thing is the gastrocnemius. So the origin point would be the condyles of the fibula, or the condyles of the femur, excuse me. The insertion point, that's the attachment point. The insertion point is going to be the calcaneus. And it's called, the difference between the origin and insertion is that when this muscle flexes, when this muscle flexes and tightens up, it does not move this origin point. It's not going to move the femur that it's attached to up here. What it is going to move is the bone that is at the insertion point. So yes, we'll put a check mark there. So that's the bone that it's going to move. When this muscle tightens up and it shortens, it's going to move this bone that it's inserted into. It's not going to move the bone that it originates from. That bone stays still. So it provides like a fulcrum for the other bone to move. Okay? Now, what happens when the gastrocnemius tightens up? I'm just drawing this little ball like here just to show you the muscle tightens up and shortens, so it moves the bone at the insertion point. What happens when the gastrocnemius tightens up and moves this bone? Which way does it move? Well, the ankle is going to move up a little bit. So what happens when the ankle moves up? Well, when the ankle moves up, the toes go down here, and it's going to be like you're pointing your toes. Or when you're driving a car and you push your foot down on the pedal, and that is called plantar flexion. Plantar, and plantar just means the bottom of your foot. Flexion. And to flex just means to bend. So plantar flexion, it bends toward the bottom of your foot. It bends down. Now let's go here, and it's easier sometimes if you draw a picture of it yourself, so you can see exactly what you're looking at. So here I'm going to draw. Here's the top of the thigh, and here's your knee. I know that's an ugly knee, but you get the point. And this is going to be the back of your leg, okay? So you got a big calf, and then it narrows down. And there's your heel. And then this is the left leg. This is going to be the left leg. So I'm going to draw, here's your big toe, and then your other toes. And here's your ankle. And here's your ankle out here on the lateral side. So this is going to be the medial side because it's the inside of your foot. And this is going to be the lateral because it's going to be the outside of your foot. Okay, so inside, let's see, inside here, inside your leg, all the way up here in your thigh, there's this big bone that comes down until it gets down to where your knee is, right? And it's shaped kind of like this, and it sticks out on the medial side a lot more than it does on the lateral side. And do you remember what this bone is? This is the femur. And if you remember what a condyle is a smooth place on the bone where it's connected to another bone. So it's got to be smooth so they don't bump, the two bones don't rub up against each other and grind up against each other. So it's got to be smooth. So on the bottom of the femur are these two condyles. This is a little smooth section, and this is a little smooth section, because that's going to hook up to the tibia and the tibia goes all the way down your lower leg, and it's going to hook up to the other bone on the your lateral part of your leg, which is the fibula, right? And then those two bones, the fibula and the tibia, sit on top of the talus, one of your foot bones, and then that talus sits on your heel bone, which is the calcaneus. And I'll color this in so you can tell where I'm talking about. So this is the calcaneus, that's the heel to your foot in the back. So here's your fibula on the lateral side of your leg, and here's your tibia. And see how those two connect up there at the dark blue. Those are smooth spaces on the femur, on the bottom of the femur. So where they connect to form that knee joint, they're not, and you bend your knee, it's not a rough patch that's grinding up next to each other. The bones are smooth there, so they can move around and move back and forth, and your knee can bend without having causing any problems. Now, these blue smooth areas on the bottom of the femur or anywhere in your body, there's smooth areas on the bones that connect to other bones a lot of places in your body, but and they're all called condyles. That's just a general term for the smooth space on the bone where it connects to another bone. That's a condyle is a general term. So these are the condyles on the femur. Okay. Now for the gastrocnemius or gastrocnemius, the gastrocnemius attaches in two different places. It attaches on one condyle of the femur, the lateral condyle of the femur, and it attaches to the medial condyle of the femur. So it attaches to both condyles of the femur like that. And that is why when you look at the gastrocnemius, it looks like two different muscles next to each other. They look like twins. They look like twins, but they're not. They're actually all one muscle. They just have two different heads on them, and then they come and meet in the middle. So this is the gastrocnemius. Now the gastrocnemius comes down and it goes behind the tibia. You see how this is the tibia right here, right? And so the gastrocnemius is going behind the tibia on the back of your leg, down, 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 and it turns into that it turns into a tendon, like all muscles do at the end, right when they're getting ready to attach to a bone. It turns into a tendon, and that tendon is called the calcaneal tendon. And that is what attaches to the calcaneus, your heel bone. But all you have to worry about for the test, I think, is that you just need to know that this is all gastrocnemius, and it comes down and its tendon inserts into the calcaneus. So the origin of the gastrocnemius is right here, is the condyles of the femur. Because if you flex your calf muscle in your leg, just flex it while you're sitting in there. If you flex your calf muscle in your leg, it doesn't move your femur. It doesn't move your upper leg. It moves your foot. So your origin, the bone that does not move where it's attached, is the condyles of the femur. Now, its insertion is down here. Its insertion is down here at the calcaneus. So, insertion is your heel bone, your calcaneus. And the insertion bone, the bone where the muscle is inserted, that bone is what moves when you flex your muscle, when you flex whatever muscle we're talking about. So if you flex your calf muscle and you tighten it all up, what happens? Your foot presses down and your ankle moves, your ankle starts to move up, and your foot starts to move down. Your foot starts to move down like you're pressing the the pedal on a car, or if you're in ballet or something, that's part of pointing your toes. Okay, so that would be the action. Let's get a different color here. So the action is this foot pointing down, pressing downward. So the action would be your foot pressing down. And another term, the technical term for your foot pointing downward, is plantar flexion. Plantar just means the bottom of your foot. That's all it means. And flexion just means your muscle movement, your muscles contracting. Okay, so that's your gastrocnemius muscle. So let's clear this off and see if we can do this for memory. The gastrocnemius attaches originally where it originally attaches. That's called the origin point. It attaches on the bottoms of the condyles, those smooth sections of the bottom of the femur. And then it goes all the way down the back of your leg, and it turns into that calf muscle, right? And then it goes all the way down, it narrows, and it turns into a tendon, and it is inserted. So its insertion point is in your heel bone, your calcaneus. So the insertion point is what moves when you flex that muscle, right? And that's your heel. So the action would be bringing your heel upward, which if you sit there and try it, what happens is you press your foot down. Almost kind of like you're pointing your toes, but there's some more muscles that are involved in pointing your toes. But as far as your foot gets in the position, it gets pressed down just like if you were going to point your toes or if you were pressing the gas pedal in a car. Okay, so that should get you started. I'll put some more videos up here in a little bit with all the rest of the muscles and everything for the legs, and I'll go a little bit faster here in a couple of hours. But I wanted to get you started so you could understand the difference between origin and action, or origin and insertion, and what that has to do with action. So I hope that helps.